Hello everyone, welcome to GDSC Pilani Hyderabad campus Flutter Festivals first event. I hope my audio is clear. Just type in a yes in the comments so that we can start further. Is my audio clear and my video also? Uh, okay, I assume my audio is clear. So let us start with the event. GDSC Pilani Hyderabad is conducting. And Flutter Festivals is basically a set of events wherein you'll be learning more about what Flutter is, how do you get started with Flutter development, and how do you go about using Flutter in your day-to-day building applications and more such activities. So from this Flutter festivals, what we expect is you guys to learn a new skill after the mid-semester examinations that we had, and from learning this new skill refers to learning how to build a cross-platform application that runs both on Android, iOS, and also there's some exciting news for you. Flutter also runs on web, Flutter also runs on desktop, Flutter also runs on embedded systems. So without any further ado, let me just present my screen to give you a brief about what Flutter is, so that after you get a brief understanding of why you should be learning Flutter and is Flutter really good, you can start with Dart Essentials, which will be starting in 5 minutes. So I'm adding my screen to the stream. The screen is also visible. So let us start with what Flutter is. As I told, Flutter is Google's portable UI toolkit for building beautiful multi-platform applications. Multi-platform refers to supporting iOS apps, Android apps, websites, desktop apps, which works well on Windows, Mac OS, Linux, and also embedded systems. All this from a single code base. So using Flutter, you'll build a small single code base and you'll compile it to their native binaries for iOS, Android, web, and all the desktop and embedded, and it runs perfectly fine on all of them. So because of this, you don't need to collaborate between different teams, that is different iOS developers, different Android developers for a small startup or a big company. And because of this no collaboration, you can release your application is adopting to Flutter framework and releasing the app both on iOS and Android at the same time. And there are around 150,000 plus applications built using Flutter until now. And yeah, this is Dash, which is Flutter and Dart's mascot. You have seen this on a lot of posters, and you might have seen this on YouTube videos. So you don't know what it is. Here you know it is. It is Flutter and Dart's mascot. This is a hummingbird, which basically represents the speed of Flutter. This basically shows the Flutter is very speed in production, in development, and in running. And let's just go further and see what are the Flutter's foundation principles. Uh, as you see on the screen, there are 5 foundation pillars that I'll be sharing with you. The first thing is fast. So Flutter is very fast, as you've seen on the screen, which is basically means there is no secondary bridge between the cross-platform application, that Flutter code base, and the native binary. Everything is compiled directly into the native binary to run on Android and iOS. But whereas if you take the example of React Native, which is also another cross-platform mobile app development framework, it lags a little because there is a small JavaScript bridge in between which compiles the code from the React Native to the native binaries whenever there is a change. So because there is no bridge here in Flutter, the application is really fast and productive. Yes, the development experience is very good, which you'll all be experiencing from tomorrow. After you install Flutter on your machines, you can see, you can have a simulator or emulator on your machine, and also you can use your mobile phone to run your mobile app by connecting it via USB. And whenever you change something on screen and click reload, it instantly changes the screen. Whenever there is a need for state change, you need to change something on screen, it instantly changes the state. need to click the hot restart, and whenever there's a small UI change, on saving the code itself, you get to see the change. Experience is very good, as I say. And the next thing is there is no compromise for designers with Flutter. You can build what the designers they give the designs into the Flutter application, so there is no compromise in that. And yes, Flutter is open sourced. You can see the code. You can see the code base at GitHub/Flutter. And yeah, it is portable. That is with a simple small code base. It will run on mobile, web, desktop, and embedded systems at the same time. So this is what we have seen earlier. And yeah, there are 2 lakh plus apps that I've said. And there are some famous apps such as Toyota. There is NU Bank. There is Robot. There is ByteDance, which is a Singapore startup. There is Tencent Games. There is WeChat. There is Alibaba. There is Square. And also there is the BMW car app is also built using Flutter. So it is trusted by a lot of people. And the Google's primary payment gateway, Google Pay, is built using Flutter. The Google One is built using Flutter. And there are other Google apps such as Google Ads, Nest Hub, Blogger, Google Ads, Stadia, AdMob, Family Link, Cloud Search, etc. are built using Flutter. So, and there is global community support for Flutter. There are some statistics which shows uh, why Flutter is popular too, uh, being powerful. And also there are some utilities that you'll get with Flutter. There are some plugins pre-installed into VS Code, or you need to install them. And for be it Android Studio or IntelliJ, and there are some plugins already pre-available, and you can just install them and you can experience the development experience to a higher level. And there are a lot of third-party plugins also available for Flutter. So this is what I will say about Flutter. And as I've said, this is the first session of Flutter Festivals, and this is the Dart Essential session. From tomorrow, we'll start with Flutter, which is Flutter Essentials 1. And on Sunday, we'll be having 2 sessions, Flutter Essentials 2 and Building a Complete App. On Monday, we'll be having session with Firebase with Flutter. So all of the subsequent 4 events will be conducted in offline mode at Pilani Hyderabad in room number F201. And the details regarding this has been informed on the social media handles. So please do check it out and follow it. And also the first event today will be recorded on YouTube. Um, so yeah, so let's get started with Dart Essentials, which is what the topic of today is. So before we go into this session, what is Dart? So Dart is basically the language which is powering Flutter. So to write code in Flutter, you need to use the language called Dart, which is a mix of JavaScript, Java, C, C++, I would say. It is a mix of all languages. The best of all worlds is picked up into Dart. So Dart is a type-safe, client-oriented, object-oriented language. So there are a lot of words in this. Don't get confused with this. I'll be explaining everything for you. But before that, just like how you use Java to build your Android apps, or Swift to build your iOS apps, you use Dart to build your Flutter apps, which then compiles again to either Kotlin or Java or Swift at the build time for enabling you to access it on cross-platform devices, right? So today's agenda is discussing about data types in Dart, the conditionals and flow control in Dart, object-oriented paradigm in Dart. So there are a lot of intricacies in Dart that you need not know for starting out Flutter development, because any language is very huge and it takes a lot of time to learn. But for Dart, you don't need to learn the whole of thing. Even if you know any other simple programming language like Python, C, Java, or any other language for say, you can just get started with it. The changes are something that you need to see, which I'll be explaining in this session. After this session, just go through the session once again, or go through the dartpad exercises that I'll be giving to you. And after that, you'll be comfortable with coding in Dart from tomorrow's session. Earlier, I initially started without knowing what Dart is. I directly started with Flutter and I haven't faced any difficulties, but having some prior knowledge into Dart might help. So when I'm restarting again for you guys to explain you to get started with Flutter, I'm starting with Dart, because some basic knowledge of Dart might improve your learning curve a little faster and it makes little steep. So yeah, let's go into the next slide. Let's start about learning about the Dart data types. So these are the data types available in Dart, which is int, double, string, bool, and there are some casings, which is dynamic, var, final, const, and there are some special data structures pre-built called list, map, and set, and there are a lot of other things. And these are some important things that we'll be covering in this session. So to start coding along, you need not install anything for now. But if you want to code on your local machine, you need to install the Dart SDK. But since we'll be coding this session on the online editor, which is called Dartpad, so you can go to this website called dartpad.dev, which I'll be pasting in the comments here. It is dartpad.dev. So once you go into this website, you can create a new Dart pad on clicking new pad and hit on Dart and unselect HTML. You don't want HTML to be selected, and then just click create. You'll be handed over with a new Dart pad that you can see just like how you see on my screen now. And so this is basically used for running the Dart code right now, and then just once you run, it'll be available on the console that is present here. And on hovering on some of the pre-built functions, you can see their documentation. So yeah, that is how Dartpad is useful for. So let me just get started with the Hello World program before you guys start your Dart pads. So just like how you have a Hello World program in any programming language that you learn, we'll also be learning the Hello World program here. So to print Hello World on the screen, you'll be using a function called print method, and inside it you'll write Hello World. And then yes, you need a semicolon at the end. It's not like the Python. And void main is basically the main function that runs your code. So any code that is written in main function gets run when you hit the run button. So on hitting this run button, you can see the hello world printed on the screen. And on hovering on the print method, you can see that this method prints a string representation of the object to the console. So anything written to this, it prints onto the console. That is what the documentation is given about print hello world print method, right? So you can also view the library docs. You can learn more about the what print does and all. uh, that's to your own voyage. So yeah, let's get started with some of the variables and what they do. So let me get started with what an integer is. So I have pre-pasted some code here so that you guys need not have any time gap. You can name this variable anything. Let's just say I'll name this variable as a, and int a equal to 35. And instead of this, I'll just print a, which basically prints 35 onto the screen. So here a is an integer, which basically stores an integer values, just like how you know in C or in any other language. And there is another type of, so this is an integer number. The default is 64 bits, two complement numbers, and blah, 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 blah. You need not to know all of this, but you can just go and learn more about this in the documentation that is available. The second data type is called double, and a double is just like what float is. I'll just add 35.012 and then I'll hit run, which basically prints 35.012 on the screen. And yes, you can't use for int and double variable and for double and int variable. So that's not possible. This is what type safe means, and what I said about Dart. Dart is a type safe language. It doesn't allow other types to get stored with the given type that we declared. If you guys having any doubts, just post it in the comments section here and I'll address them. Feel free to ask your doubts there. Right. So we're looking at the third data type, which is called string. So what I'll do is I'll just keep the earlier things also on the screen. So double B equal to something like 4.021. So the third data type that we'll see is called string. And the string, let's just say my name, which is Sai Ankit. So I'll add my name and let me print the string onto the console, and it will print Sanket. And there is a small warning here that states that the local variable isn't used because you're not printing anything. We are not using the variable. It's giving a small warning. That's fine for us. Also, you can see the data type of what I'm printing using a runtime type method. So C dot runtime type or any variable dot runtime type gives you what data type that particular variable is. So C is a string, right? So it is printing string. So this is how you can learn. You can see if the annotation is correct or not for the given data type, right? So fourth, the fourth data type that we'll be looking into is called a Boolean, which we'll be writing with bool d equal to true. There are only two values for bool, which is true or false, and I can print. Let me print d here to see if I'll get true or false. Yeah, I'm getting true, and if I print e here, I'll get false. Right. So you can also use something called a dollar symbol when you're using it with strings. Let's just say I'm printing hello, and then I want to print the value of my name. So just want to tell hello Sayankit. So how do I do that? I can't do hello C because it will print hello C onto the screen. If you want to see, I just add a semicolon. So if I print this, it says hello C instead of telling hello Sayankit. So how do I do that? Just adding a dollar symbol before the given variable name prints the variable at that place. So it says hello Sankit right now. So this is how you print the variables along with this thing. Can you please open the registration links for the rest of the Flutter Festival? Yeah. So the thing is, the all of the rest Flutter Festivals will be held in offline mode. So there's no registration required for that. You can directly come in to F201 and at the given times that are mentioned on the Facebook post, and there's no registration required for that. I hope your doubt is clarified. Right. Moving further, we have discussed the four data types of Flutter. Now, let me give you some types of data types. Right. Let's just say you don't know what variable you're going to instantiate, right? Or you want to. So there are basically. Let's just frame it this way. There are basically four types of types. This dynamic, let me comment out this. So comment is basically two slashes, which compiler doesn't see. And the next is var. The next is final. The next is const. Okay, there are these four types, and I'll be discussing about all of these four types now. And you need to get a clear understanding of what these four types are. And if you don't understand what these four types are, just let me know in the comment section there. Okay, so coming into the dynamic, which basically refers to dynamic means you can change the data type and also the value. Var refers to you can't change the data type but can change the value. I'll be explaining about all of them just in a minute. Let me just write down so that you can have a reference to when I'm speaking about something. Final, you can't change data type and also the value. And the same works well for const. You can't change the data type and value. So these are the four different types of variables. So a dynamic meaning that you can change the data type of what is written in that. Let's just say I declare a variable to be dynamic, and let's just say the variable name is called name, and let me instantiate that with a string called Sankit. And at some point of time, I want to change the value of name to, let's just say, Ramaraju. Okay, this is something I want to change at the later point of time. Here we're changing the value of that variable, right? Uh, so here we're changing the value of variable. And some point of time, I want to change the whole data type of that variable. I want to add name equal to 1. So will that work or not is what we'll be saying for dynamic. And it'll work because it's not showing any issues here. So I'll print name at all of these places, which basically prints all the given changes, that is Sankit, Ramaraju, and 1. So using dynamic, what we can do is with this special type of character casing, we can change the data type at any moment in the code. We can change the value at any moment in the code, right? But with others, you can't change the data type. Let's just say I put final, you'll get an error for this thing because you can't, sorry, final. For var, you'll get an error for the third thing, which is you're changing the data type. You can't change the data type. That's the reason you'll get an error. And if I run also, you'll get an error because a value of int can't be assigned to variable of type string, right? This is an int and it can't be assigned to string. The data type can't be changed. So you can't do this, but you can always change the value present in that if you're using var. So var is used if you already know what kind of only one data type that you'll be using, but you don't know which data type it is. Okay, let's just say I declare something like var a equal to 1, and later I do it a equal to 2. You know that you'll be using that particular variable for integer, but you're not sure which data type it is. Then you'll use var. And if you don't know if you want to use for a particular data type or for a particular value, you'll use the keyword called dynamic. Okay. And the third thing is called final, which basically doesn't allow you to change the value also. So on running this, it says that you can't change the value because you can't assign the final variable to this thing. So I can't change the value also for final. And now it compiles well because I removed this thing. It should return a fast output. Um, Yeah, right. And for const also, it is the same thing. It doesn't allow you to change the values, or you can't change the data type also. So what is the difference between final and const? So const is used for something, assigning something that you know beforehand. Let's just say there is some function, right? There is some function that gives you the current date time. Okay, the current date time dot now. Let's just say date time dot now is a function that gives you the current second you are present in of that particular day. Let's just say you are at the 25,636 second of that particular day. So this function gives you that value, and you can't assign it to const, because for const you have to assign a pre-known value like Sankit, or like 35, or like 32.05. Already pre-known value, you can assign it to const. And yes, the other laws verify are valid. That is, you can't change the data type and you can't change the value. But for final, you can use this date time dot now, which is one time you are assigning some value that you don't know also, but during runtime you'll assign it one time, but then later in the due course of the code you can't change it. That you can't change the data type, you can't change the value. So these are the four important casings of variables, and if you have any doubts, you can just let me know in the comments. Yes, you can watch the future sessions on YouTube itself on the same channel, that is GDSC with Pilani Hyderabad campus. And we're not sure if we'll be recording the offline events. We will be trying to, but we can't give assurance on that. So I hope you understood all the four different casings, which is dynamic, var, final, and const. This is very important because during your coding in Flutter, you'll be using this a lot of times. So it is better so that you can understand that you can't change the data types, you can't change the values of some casings. So just keep them in mind before you start with Flutter. All right. So let me just remove this, and let me mm, get you understanding about what the other data structures are. So you know what arrays are in this C or Java, right? Similar to that, you have something called list in Dart. So I'll be declaring a list called list marks, and I'll be instantiating that with 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So this is a list which is containing the marks. So let me print marks of 0, which prints the first number of this marks array, which is 1. You know, all of this accessing the array element, that is the square bracket accessing and all from C or any other language. So it works the same here. And you can also annotate what type of values you're putting it inside list. That is, here we're using integers, right? So I'll just say we're using a list of type integers, and on running it runs perfectly fine. But let's just say I use string, then I think it should give a runtime error because I have declared the marks to be a list of type string, but I'm declaring it with integers, so it shouldn't work out here. So maybe I can give all strings here, and then on running it, I'll get a proper answer, which is 1. So, but let's just say I'm unsure, or I am keeping a lot of other different things. Let's just say I'm keeping one integer, one double value, 2.93, one string, So what do we declare this list to be? This is valid in Dart, and you can declare the list to be dynamic because you are having multiple different data types. You can change the data type at any particular moment. So you can use something called dynamic data type here. Just like what we have learned earlier, you can change this thing. Let me just print two so that you can see. I think it's still loading. Let me just see if there's any questions. Yeah, I think it should run now. Yeah, so it's printing Sanket, which is the third element, which because this is a n-1 based indexing, so you get to do -1 for accessing the a particular element. So this is about list, and let me also go through the control flow here that is going through the list elements. So you can always write a for loop that is for int I equal to 0, I less than marks.length. So here marks.length basically, so okay, let me just give a small print marks.length. So print marks.length basically returns you the size of the marks array. Here there are 3 elements in it, so it is returning 3. And let's just say I add another element. To add another element into a list, we can just write marks.add, and then you can add an element called maybe Ramaraju. Okay. And then on running it, the element gets added to marks and you get the marks.length to be 4, right? And also you can, let's just say you want to print marks.length, right? No, you want to run through all the array elements and print everything. So you'll run from I equal to 0 to I equal to marks.length, and you're incrementing I at at every moment, and you're printing the marks of I, which basically is every element of marks. So you get all the elements, which is 1, 2.93, Sankit, Ramaraju. You can't see Ramaraju here, but on adding to marks using marks.add, that is anything list.add, then this particular element gets added to the list and you print the element here. So here, just like how you do with string literals, let's just say I do hello and then dollar symbol, and then I close the string brackets here. On running it, I get hello with every other name. So yeah, so hello, and then all the this thing is mentioned here, right? So to you can also print the whole marks array using print marks, which basically prints the whole marks array, just like how it is print here, the whole marks array. So on running it, yes, you can see this thing to be printed here. So this is about lists. Let me just see if there's anything other that I missed with the list. I don't think we finished so let me just recap. We finished about integers, double, then strings, then booleans, then we missed the flow control, which let me just take my flow control here. Flow control refers to the if and else statements, which is conditionals, right? So write conditionals. What I'll do is it's a normal if else statement. So if let me just create a variable called boolean uh, is student equal to false. So if is student equal to true, then I'll print he is a student, right? Or else I will print he is not a student. And on running this function, running this code, you'll get he's not a student because we have initialized eStudent false. Let's just say I initialize it with true, then this goes into this first if statement and it prints out he is a student. So this is how you write conditionals in Dart. So there is this if else statements, and yes, you can also have functions in that. The main is a function here. You can also have another function written outside the main. Let's just say I write a function called int count count sum, which basically gives me the sum of all numbers from 1 to n. Okay, So let's just say I want to count this sum of numbers from 1 to n. Okay, I can take a parameter here that is into this function of the type integer, and the number is n, and I want to count the sum from 1 to n. So I'll write a for loop just like how I wrote earlier. For int I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, and I want to return a value called the whole sum, right? So I'll create a new variable called sum, and I'll initialize it to 0, and I'll add sum equal to sum plus, wait, I'll run my loop from 1 to n, okay, sum plus I, right? And after this, I am returning sum. So this is a function that I'm using, and I'll be printing the value of count sum. The number I'll be giving is 5, let's just say, just for example. That is, I want to print the sum of numbers from 1 to 5. So on running this, I'll get my value to be 15. That is a sum from 1 to 5. That is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. Let's just say I want to count my sum from up to, what is this, 10,000? Yeah, up to 10,000. This is this value. This is this huge. So this is how the functions are used. And you can also have something called named parameters for functions. That is, if you put up curly braces around the variable, then what you have to do in the function call is basically you have to call n is this thing. Okay, why is there an error here? Let me just run this. Okay. When we're calling this shouldn't be null. So initially, let me just make it 0, because we don't know if the user provides an n value or not. So initially it will be 0, but then if you provide some value, it will take that value. Okay. So on running this, you'll get the same answer. So this is called a named parameter to a function. That is, you're naming a parameter. Let's just say you're having multiple different parameters to the function. That is, let's just say I want to have string name equal to some blank, string ID equal to some blank, string password equal to some blank. So these are some given parameters to this function. And for this, I need to have the variables as name equal to Sanket, ID equal to 1, and then password equal to SSD, right? So here I'm using named parameters, sorry, not equal to, I need to use a colon here, right? So this will run, I mean, it shouldn't run basically. Let me just return 0, okay? Which will basically print 0 on the screen. But yeah, what is the use of named parameters is, let's just say without named parameters, I might forget the order of which the parameters that I want to pass into the function, right? So if I forget the order, it doesn't have no use, because I might mess up with what values I'm sending into the function. Let's just say there are like 100 parameters that I need to send into function. So I might forget the order of the function parameters. So I'm using named parameters so that it'll be easy, so that I'll know, okay, this is the name parameters, this is the ID parameters, and this is the password parameter, right? So this is all about, I would say, functions in Dart. Coming into the next topic. So I think we finished functions. This is pretty much what we can have a basic understanding of what functions are in Flutter, in Dart. The next thing that you might see is maps. So maps are basically a key value pair substances, which is similar to hash maps in C or Java, and dictionaries in Python. So let me just give you a small example of what map is. I'll just remove all this, and I'll create a new small void main function. Right. So map is basically, let's say, map of student, right, is basically name is Sanket, phone number is this thing 7093732 something ABCDFGH 987654321. Okay. So this is a key value pair that I'm declaring, which is student. Student is having a key called name and a value called this Sanket. key called phone number and a value called this. So to annotate a map, you'll use the same this angular brackets, and the key data type is string here, and the right side value data type is string here. Let's just say I want to have my phone number to be an integer. Okay, then my data type here should be dynamic, which basically takes in any data type that you declare, right? So this is my particular student list, and you can have another data type for student one, which basically have another phone number, and name is just Ramaraju. Right. So this is two maps that we have declared, and to access elements in map, I'll just do print student of name, which basically prints the student's name, the first student's value, that is Sayankit. If I want to print his phone number, it is as simple as calling it with their key. And if I want to print both of their phone numbers, I'll just copy this print statement. I'll have student one and then print his phone number here. Okay. And you see, yeah, it is print here. So map is used for that. Map is used for key value pairs. And you can access that as I've told you. Let's just say you want to store a list of maps, right? You want to store a list of students. So what I'll do is I'll store a list of map of type string and dynamic. Right. So here I'll be explaining you each one by one, which basically says I'm storing a list of type of map. Okay. And map is of type string and dynamic. And the list name is called students, and it will be a list. And the first element will be the student element, which I'll copy here, copy, and then paste, comma. And then the second element is a student one, copy, and then paste, and then semicolon here. So let me just remove this and just click format. Yeah, so format basically formatted our whole code. So students is the list which is containing elements of type map, and each map is of type string and dynamic, which is what we have seen in the last example. So to print, oh shit, yeah, I missed this bracket here. Yeah. So to print elements of students, what I'll do is simple. I'll do for int I equal to 0, I less than students dot length, and then I'll add I plus plus. And then to print elements, what I'll do is print students of I. Students of I will print each map. So here you can see in the printing console here that it will print the whole map there. Okay, I'm printing the whole this whole map, right? But if I just want to print their names, right? So I'll then add another bracket with the title name, which basically takes in only the names of those map. So I'll just get printed Sankit and Ramaraju. So this is how you can work with the list and maps and both combination of list and maps. Do you guys have any doubts pertaining to this until now? Like we have discussed what the all the data types are. We have discussed the conditionals and flow control, and now next we'll go into the dot oops. Okay, so for now we have discussed what lists are, what maps are, how you can work with lists and maps, and the next topic is what is object oriented programming, which will be taking up in a few minutes. All right. So it's clear. So let's just move into the next part, which is oops. So let me just clear everything. Right. So I assume that no one of you know what a class is and what an object is. So I'll give a brief introduction of what class is. Class is something similar to a structure in C, right? That is a collection of data types. Let's just say you want to create your own data type. You have an data type called int, which basically stores an integer. You have a data type called string, which basically stores a string. But what if you want a data type that stores both an integer and string? This is called a class, a custom data type that you want to build. This is a very vague explanation of what a class is, but to just let sink in what classes. This is how you will explain it. Let's just say I want to, let's just say we had the earlier example with name and phone number. Let's just have the same data type to be student. So I'll declare student to be a class. And then the data types that I want to store inside this class or inside this data type is, one is string, which is name, and another is their phone number, in phone number, right? And this is giving an error because these are not nullable characters, because string is a null safe language. It doesn't allow any element to be nullable. So if you want to remove this error, you will declare with some random dummy values initially, and you can later change it, right? So student is a particular class, and once you want to update element inside class, once you want to create the data type inside class, you need something special function called constructor, which has the same name as class. So I'll explain you what constructor is with a small example. So to write a constructor, you'll use the same student, right? And you'll write inside name equal to Sayankit, and then phone number equal to 9876543211, right? So this is what you'll write for student. Okay. And if I want to print, so to create a new object of student, so student is a data type. Just like how you're creating int a equal to 1, I'll be creating similar to that. I'll create student1 is equal to new student. Okay, this is how you create a new class. And to print the elements in class, I'll print student1 dot name. So this will print my name, which is Sayankit, on the screen, because I have initialized student.name to be Sayankit. Let's just say I want to have another student, but with different name. So how do I do that? So for doing that, I'll need a named parameter. So for this, I'll have, so for everything in Flutter, we generally used the named parameters, which is writing in flower braces inside the function argument. You can use the regular thing also, but you need to remember the order of the arguments that you pass into functions. If you don't want to remember the order, then just have it like this. Okay. So to start with this, I'll have a string new name, which is basically a new name that user provides. Okay. This is initially 0 because we don't want it to be nullable. And then int new phone number to be 0. Okay. So what I do here basically is I change the name to be new name and phone number to be new phone number. So what it basically does is, inside this student, I'll be sending my new name to be Sayankit and new phone number to be 9876543211. Right. Let me just increase this. Yeah. And I create a student too, whose name is Ramaraju. And then his phone number has a change here, 1 2, right? So this is his phone number. So I want to print student one's name and student two's name, right? So let me just print this. So I'll get both names, Sankit and Ramaraju. So what is happening here is basically I'm creating a constructor function which basically constructs the data type. Okay. So constructs the class is what you can say for that. Okay. For that data type, I am initializing two parameters. Okay. New name and new phone number. And I'm initializing this particular variable name to this new name that I'm sending in. So new name I'm sending is Sankit. So I'll initialize this small variable's name to be Sayankit and its phone number to be this thing mentioned here. And student two's variable, I'll initialize Ramaraju and a phone number that is written here. So this is how we'll be creating classes using that. Let's just say I want to have the phone number to be something +1. Okay. So when I print, I'm not printing phone number, right? So I'll print phone number here. And you can see that the number I've sent in is 1 ending, and I'm getting 2 because I'm adding +1 to that. Okay, so you can modify anything you want. Let's just say I print in I send in first name as, let's just say I send in first name as this thing, and string last name equal to some empty characters. Okay, and give me a minute. First name is Ankit. Last name is let us say Ankit. Last name is Bhim. Okay, so I'm sending in two variables, but if I want to have the name, so what I'll do is I'll just add first name plus a small gap plus second last name, right? That is what we declared. So what here it will happen is it will add the sign kit plus a small gap. Oh wait, first name is a blank. What happened? Arguments doesn't match. Okay, first name, first name. All right, last name I need to have a colon here. Okay, now I'll run my code once. It should work. So it'll print Sai and Ankit with a gap in here. Let's just say I want to print student name too. So it'll print Ramaraju, a gap and a beam. Okay, so this is how you can also modify the functional parameters and you can have the constructor to be different, right? You're getting it. I assume that you're getting it, how you can play out with constructors, with classes. So this is one important thing with the classes. Let me also give you some other uses of classes in Flutter, in Dart. So there is this thing called hmm, right. Yeah, so basically you can have a list of type classes. Let's just say I have a list of type student, okay, which basically means that you have a list of different elements, each of which is a student class. So I name it students, right? And how do I declare it inside here? So you declare directly student, and then I'll copy this thing, right? And then paste this thing here. Right, so let me just remove this thing and also this thing and format the code. So you can see this to be better. Hmm. Right. So there are three elements in the students list, each of which is a student. So what is the use of this? Let's just say you're getting some data from a backend service or somewhere in the database where you store the data of students. So you can have a class called student, which basically have multiple parameters like his name, his ID number, his phone number, his address, his parents' name, a lot of parameters, and you can store them in a list. And let's just say you want to what do you want to do, and you also have their cgpa, right? You want to find the average cgpa of everyone. Let's just say there is also double cgpa equal to 0.0 initially, and then I have double new cgpa equal to 0.0, and then I add new cgpa. The initial guys is 8.19. The second guy is new CGPA is 6.5. The third guy is 9.89. So we want to find the average CGPA of everyone. Okay, I can write a small for loop for int I equal to 0, I less than students dot length, and then I plus plus, right? And I want to just add, right? So double total equal to something, let's just initialize 0.00. Total equal to total plus. So how do I access now? Students of I basically gives me the whole class. I need to add a colon here. Students of I basically gives me a whole class. And to access CGPA in that, I need to do a dot operator and then CGPA. So this gives me the CGPA. And after finding this, let's just say I want to find the sum of CGPA, okay, initially. So total, I'll print the total CGPA. which is 0. Oh, wait. Uh, oh, wait, I'm not updating it. Okay. CGPA equal to new CGPA. So you're getting it right. If you're not updating it, it is taking this value. So this is what happens this is why Dart is very useful, because we are already initializing it and not leaving it to be nullable. You don't get an error somewhere in the code. You'll get somewhere that okay, this is nullable. That's the reason it is asking you to initialize it somewhere. You might make a mistake, something like this. So that is the reason maybe it asks you to do like that. And I formatted it. So the average, so the total CGPA is this, and I'll do by 3, or I can do by students dot length, which basically tells me the average CGPA to be 8.1933. Right. So let me have this guy's CGPA also to be 7.19 or something. So I'll have my average CGPA to be somewhere around 7.86. So this is how you can play around with classes and stuff in Flutter. So the UI part you will build with Flutter, but then how the logic works inside Flutter is what you'll do with Dart. Okay, there are some discussions happen. How do you combine both positional and named parameters? What if there's a parameter and we don't give data for it? It'll take up the default data. Yes, Sarvasva. So here we're not giving a value to. Let's just say we're not giving the new phone number for student one. So what it'll do is it'll be taking the new phone number, which is 0, which we initially declared here. It'll take up that value. So if we want to just print the value, print students of 0 dot his phone number, right? We are not initializing his phone number. So on running it, we'll get the value to be 0 because we have not declared anything, and it will take up the default value, which is 0. That's the reason we are adding default values there. I hope you understood. It'll take up the default data, right? Yes, guys. Do you have any other doubts? I think this is what all the basics you need for getting started with Dart, and you also finished the OOPS paradigm. So this is the basics of OOPS. That what you'll do. Later, when you start with Flutter, I'll also explain other useful things, which are the attributes. So yeah, just to make things clear for you, uh, any function that is written inside a class is called a method, and any variable that is written inside a class is called a attribute. That is what you just need to know for now. And just to inform you once again, the subsequent events will be in offline mode. So tomorrow the event is at 6 p.m. same like today, and it will be in F201. I'll just tell you guys to bring your laptops with Flutter installed already. So what I'll do is I'll just share a small link with you. Also, you can see in the description to install Flutter. So Flutter installation for Windows and Flutter installation for Mac. So there are two different playlists that you need to follow, or there are, you can just Google them. Right. So just find it on your own. You can just Google and find out how to install Flutter on your machine. If it's Windows, just type it on YouTube, and there are tons of tutorials online guiding you how to install Flutter. So yeah, so find your way out and install Flutter, and get your laptops ready. From next session it'll be code along, so you'll be building your whole app from next class, and in the next 4 sessions you'll be building a complete app, and from then you can take on your Flutter journey. You can do your freelance work, you can do small apps for your college, or you can do small apps for your personal portfolio, and many more stuff like that. If there's any doubt, please let me know in the comments. I'll wait for another 2 to 3 minutes maybe, and then I'll end the broadcast. Just let your juniors, that just the 2020 and 2021 batch, know about the Flutter Festivals, and bring them up to F201 so that we can have an interactive session from tomorrow. That is what I can tell. So I hope there are no doubts for anyone. 6 p.m. F201, right? Yeah. Yep. I'll update tomorrow's event also. I'll just give a small reminder on Shoutbox or FEG regarding the event. But yeah, it is 6 p.m. F201. So I guess there are no doubts now. I'll close the broadcast. Right. Bye, guys. I hope to see every one of you tomorrow again. Bye.